It is the middle of October 1827. The first snow has already dusted the high ridges of the Rockies. A man named Samuel Parker stands at the edge of a clearing, staring at a pile of logs he dragged from the forest with nothing but a length of rope and a pair of battered moccasins. He has 7 days before the next storm, 7 days to build a shelter that will keep him alive through a winter that kills the unprepared. 7 days, and not a single tool you would recognize from a modern hardware store. No chainsaw, no power drill, no box of nails, not even a steel hammer, just a handful of iron, a few hand-forged blades, and a mind trained to see tools in every branch, every stone, every scrap of hide. This is how the mountain men built cabins in a week, with nothing but what they could carry on their backs and what the land was willing to give. And here is the part that should make you angry, because everything you have been told about building, about what is required, about what is possible, is a lie designed to keep you dependent. The modern construction industry wants you to believe that shelter is a product, not a skill, that you need blueprints, permits, a truckload of specialized tools, and a crew of experts just to put a roof over your head. But the mountain men knew better. They built homes that lasted decades, sometimes centuries, with nothing but muscle, ingenuity, and a few tricks passed down from men who learned the hard way that the only thing standing between you and the cold is what you can build with your own hands. Let us pull back the curtain. Let us walk through, day by day, how a mountain man could build a cabin in 7 days with no tools you would recognize, and why the knowledge was buried, not lost. Day 1, the site and the trees. The first thing you need isn't a tool, it's a place. Mountain men didn't pick a spot at random. They read the land like a map of survival. South-facing slopes for maximum winter sun, high enough to avoid spring floods, low enough to dodge the worst of the wind. Near water, but not so close that the ground turned to mud with the first thaw. They looked for a stand of straight, tall trees, lodgepole pine, spruce, or fir. Not because they were easy to cut, but because they grew with minimal taper, making them perfect for stacking. The mountain man's saw was a felling axe, hand-forged, single bit, with a head weighing about 2.5 pounds. The handle was sometimes hickory, sometimes whatever hardwood was available. If the handle broke, you made another. If the edge dulled, you sharpened it on a river stone. But here's the trick. The axe wasn't the only tool. The real secret was the beetle, a mallet carved from a green log used to drive wooden wedges into the cut. No steel wedge, no sledgehammer, just a chunk of hardwood shaped with a knife and fire hardened at the end. The wedges themselves were split from the same trees, shaped with a hatchet or even a sharp rock if iron was scarce. Felling a tree with this setup wasn't fast. It was a dance of patience and precision. You would score a notch, drive in a wedge, and let the tree's own weight do the work. When the trunk started to groan, you stepped back and let gravity finish the job. No yelling timber, no hard hats, just a man, a tree, and the knowledge that every swing counted. Day 2, the sill and the foundation. Modern cabins start with concrete. The mountain man started with stone. He would clear the site, dig down to hard earth, and lay a perimeter of flat rocks, whatever he could pry from the ground or riverbed. These stones were not mortared. They were dry stacked, fitted together like a puzzle. The goal was not perfection, it was drainage. Water had to flow under and around the cabin, not through it. On top of the stones went the sill logs, the first layer of the cabin's walls. These were the biggest, straightest logs, sill and peeled of bark with a draw knife, or, if you did not have one, with a sharp-edged stone or even the back of your axe. Bark left on the log meant rot, bugs, and a short life for your home. The logs were notched at the ends using a saddle notch or a V-notch, cut with the axe and cleaned up with a knife. No tape measure, no level. The mountain man used a plumb bob, a rock tied to a string to check verticals, and a water-filled gut or reed as a level. The tools were improvised, but the results were precise. The first layer had to be perfect. Everything else depended on it. This is where the real work began. Each log was rolled, dragged, or levered into place using nothing but muscle, a few wooden poles, and a system of ramps and skids. The mountain man's crane was a forked branch, wedged under the log and used as a lever. Sometimes, if he was lucky, he had a mule or a partner. More often, it was just him and the physics of simple machines. The notches at the ends of each log locked them together, creating a stable, interlocking wall. No nails, no screws. The weight of the logs and the precision of the notches did all the work. Gaps between logs were stuffed with chinking, a mix of moss, clay, mud, and whatever fibrous material was at hand. Some men used strips of bark, animal hair, or even old clothing. The goal was to seal out wind and water, not to win a beauty contest. By the end of the third day, the walls would be waist high, maybe shoulder high if the trees were close and the weather held. Every log was a victory. Every notch was a lesson in patience. Day 4, door and window openings. You don't cut holes in a wall after it's built. You plan them as you go. The mountain man marked the spot for the door with a stick, notched the logs as he stacked them, and left a gap just wide enough to squeeze through. Windows were rare, glass was a luxury, and open holes meant lost heat. If a window was needed, it was a small opening, covered with oiled paper, animal bladder, or nothing at all. The door itself was a marvel of improvisation. 2 split planks were lashed together with rawhide or wooden pegs. Hinges? If you had iron, you forged them over a fire. If not, you carved pintles, wooden pegs that fit into holes in the frame, allowing the door to swing. The latch was a simple wooden bar, pivoting on a peg, no locks. If you wanted security, you built your cabin where nobody could find it. Day 5, the roof. This is where most modern builders would throw up their hands. No plywood, no tar paper, no asphalt shingles. The mountain man's roof was a work of art and necessity. The simplest roof was a purlin style, 2 or 3 large logs laid across the top of the walls, with smaller poles called purlins running perpendicular. Over these went layers of bark peeled from aspen or birch in the spring when the sap ran. Bark was waterproof, flexible, and abundant. It was laid in overlapping layers like shingles and held down with more poles or rocks. If bark was not available, the roof was made of split shakes, thin slabs of wood riven from straight-grained logs with a froe and mallet. The froe was a wedge-shaped blade, hammered into the end of a log and twisted to split off a shake. If you did not have a froe, you used a hatchet, a knife, or even a sharpened bone. The shakes were laid in rows, overlapping like fish scales, and fastened with wooden pegs or notched into place. The pitch of the roof was steep, 45 degrees or more, to shed snow and rain. The eaves extended beyond the walls to keep water from running down the logs. Every detail was a response to the land, the weather, and the materials at hand. Day 6, the floor and the hearth. Most mountain men did not bother with a floor at first. The earth was swept clean, packed hard, and sometimes covered with pine boughs or animal skins. If time and resources allowed, split logs called puncheons were laid flat and smooth with an adze or a broad axe. An adze is a blade set at a right angle to the handle, used to shave wood by swinging it like a pick. If you did not have an adze, you burned the logs slightly and scraped them smooth with a rock. The hearth was the heart of the cabin. Mountain men built a simple fire pit, lined with stones, against one wall. The chimney was a cat and clay structure, with sticks woven together and plastered with mud, built up in layers. The mud dried hard, the sticks burned away, and what remained was a chimney that drew smoke up and out. If flat stones were available, they built a stone hearth. If not, they made do with what they had. The fire was never allowed to go out. It was life itself. The mountain man banked the coals at night with ashes so he could revive the fire in the morning without flint or steel. Day 7, finishing touches and survival details. The last day was for sealing, storing, and securing. Every gap in the walls was stuffed with more chinking. The roof was checked for leaks. The door was hung and the latch was tested. If there was time, a small loft was built above the main room for storage or sleeping. Hooks were carved from branches and driven into the walls to hang gear, food, and clothing. Water was stored in wooden buckets carved from a single log using a chisel and mallet. Food was hung from the rafters in sacks to keep it away from mice and insects. If you had a trap line, you set it. If you had a rifle, you cleaned it. If you had nothing but a knife, you sharpened it and hoped for luck. And then you waited. For the snow, for the cold, for the long months. The only thing between you and the wind was what you built with your own hands. The tools you'd never recognize. Here is the part that should make you question everything you have been told about what is necessary. The mountain man's toolkit was a study in minimalism and improvisation. Axe, the primary tool, often hand-forged with handles replaced as needed. Knife, used for everything from notching logs to skinning game to carving pegs. Beetle, a wooden mallet made on site, used to drive wedges and pegs. Wedges, split from green wood, used to fell trees and to split logs. Froe, when available, used for splitting shakes. A hatchet or a sharpened bone could substitute. Adze or broad axe, used for smoothing logs and making puncheon floors. If not available, fire and scraping stone did the job. Plumb bob and water level, made from string, a rock, and a hollow reed. Rawhide and rope for lashing, binding, and improvising hinges or handles. Fire, used for hardening wood, shaping tools, and burning out log hollows for buckets or troughs. No power tools, no nails, no screws, no tape measures, no blueprints. Just a handful of iron, a mind trained to improvise, and a willingness to work with the land instead of against it. Why this knowledge was buried. Here is the quiet outrage. This knowledge was not lost. It was buried. Buried by an industry that profits from your dependence. Buried by a culture that tells you shelter is something you buy, not something you build. Buried by a system that makes you believe you need permission, certification, and a truckload of tools just to survive a winter. The mountain men did not wait for permission. They did not wait for delivery trucks or building inspectors. They built with what they had, where they were, and they survived. Their cabins still stand in some places, silent testaments to a kind of resilience that modern life has almost erased. You have been told you are not handy enough, not skilled enough, not equipped enough. That is a lie. The only thing you are missing is the knowledge that was deliberately kept from you. What you can learn and use today. You don't need to move to the Rockies or fell a forest to reclaim this knowledge. The principles are the same whether you're building a cabin, a shed, or a life that doesn't depend on someone else's permission. Read the land. Sun, wind, water, and soil matter more than blueprints. Use what you have. Every branch, every stone, every scrap of rope is a tool if you know how to use it. Build for survival, not for show. Tight joints, steep roofs, and simple designs last longer than fancy finishes. Improvise. If you don't have a tool, make one. If you don't have a part, carve it. Work with the seasons. Build before the snow. Store before the freeze. Plan for the worst, hope for the best. Share what you learn. The mountain men pass their knowledge by showing, not telling. Teach someone else. Keep the chain unbroken. The truth they never wanted you to know. The mountain men built cabins in 7 days with no tools you would recognize because they understood something we have forgotten. Survival is a skill, not a product. Shelter is a right, not a commodity. And the only thing standing between you and the cold is what you can build with your own hands, your own mind, and the knowledge that was always yours, until someone decided it was more profitable to sell you a solution than to teach you how to make one. You are not broken, you were just given broken instructions. The tools were always there. The knowledge was always yours. Now you know.